Greetings and salutations. For this video I want to show you guys how to live mirror grease pencil stroke with onion skinning enabled. I'm going to try to explain things quickly and in a new format, but first, I updated my avatar with a basic face rig and some posable hands. Yeah, it's not great, but it'll work for now. You can tell me how bad these rigs are later in the comments, but for now, let's get started. So recently I tried making a diagram for a character I was designing, using grease pencil as my medium. He was a robotic character, and before I started modeling him, I wanted a layer by layer of his major components and chassis. It honestly just makes the creation of robotic characters easier for me. Also, upon reviewing the drafts, it looks pretty cool. But there was a problem. See, much like other objects in Blender, grease pencil has modifiers. Modifiers like the array and mirror modifier, for example. They're great for keeping things symmetrical, but they have limits, apparently. Namely, live editing and onion skin support. See, I wanted live editing because 1, symmetrical drawings are easier to make when I can predict them visually, and 2, my monkey brain likes it. But onion skinning was a must-have since I used the visuals of onion skin to be my layers. Being able to see the layers in front and behind the current layer was great when using this as a reference point. I could put each major component on a single frame, then just move forward and backward to select which layer I wanted. But these modifiers and onion skin don't work together. I scoured the internet from Stack Overflow to Reddit, and couldn't find a solution to using onion skin with a mirror or array modifier. I don't know if the support just wasn't there, or no one really wanted this functionality to begin with, but I came up empty-handed. And then it dawned on me. Geometry nodes. I could just add geometry nodes to my grease pencil object. Oh, geometry nodes aren't even compatible with the grease pencil object. No matter, because I actually did find a way to use geometry nodes to create live editing with the array modifier. Kinda. Let's actually set this thing up. Alright, so in order to use geometry nodes, we need to create an extra object to store the geometry node modifier, since we can't use the grease pencil object. Then we can just instance that grease pencil object that we want to mirror. Since we're not actually going to use the real array modifier given to us by Blender, we have to make our own. So first, let's get all the main nodes out of the way. We'll need 2 objects as our input. First things first, we need our grease pencil stroke that we wish to modify, and we gotta set this one to as instance. Then we need an empty that we can just put into the scene, but we need to make sure that both of their origins are at the same point. Connect a geometry to instances node here from our stroke, then feed that into a duplicate instances node, and set the amount to something like 2 or higher. And now we connect that geometry output to a translate instances, then into a rotate instances, and then finally a scale instances. See where this is going? We're going to control the location, rotation, and scale of each instance we duplicate. Make sure all these are set to local space, by the way. Alright, you got that? No? Well, rewind. I'm not repeating myself. Anyway, let's get some math nodes. First, we'll need a vector scale node for each vector we're trying to edit. We can get these from our empty object info. Now connect our vector scales to the duplication index. This will ensure each instance that we duplicate gets edited sequentially. Now you can add another column of vector scales, which can be used to set the multiplier of each effect. Not necessary, but I think it's nice to have. Then we can connect the outputs of these scales to their assigned nodes. But wait, what about these extra 2 nodes for the scale row I have here? Well, there's a funny little stipulation with scale in this scenario. You see, if we look at our spreadsheet for a second, and if we don't add these math nodes, the scale just keeps going up by 1, even though we never touched the input object. The reason for this is because scale is normally at a 1, 1, 1 already, whereas the other values that we're using start at 0, 0, 0, relatively speaking. If we instance an input of 1 here for each duplication, the node group is just going to add that to the vector for every duplication forward. So it would act like we scaled up the empty to a 2 with the standard modifier behavior. To fix this, we just subtract the original 1 with this vector math node here, then add it back in after our calculations. As you can see, the scale column is now at 1 when the empty is at 1. And there we go. The node group acts exactly how the array modifier does. You can set the number of arrays, pick the object of reference, and you have the added bonus of controlling the influence. And as you can see here, I'm making a little animation with this node setup. And you can see this green fade here is actually the onion skin doing its work. Huzzah! Problem solved. Kinda. So this method works, but it's not very supported. If you try to realize the instances in geometry nodes, or even apply the geometry node modifier, everything just disappears. Because grease pencil just isn't compatible with geometry nodes. so I still ended up using the actual modifiers when I wanted to realize them. But for my use case, I didn't need to, so that worked out. I really don't know why Grease Pencil still has so little support with geometry nodes, but from my research I found out that the Blender Foundation has actually been working on a huge update to Grease Pencil. Honestly, just skimming over its capabilities, it's going to be a real game changer for Grease Pencil artists. You can look up more about that by googling Grease Pencil 3.0, and I hope they manage to get a stable build of it out soon. But for now, this patchy solution will have to do. So if you're watching this in like 2025, 2026, I'd recommend checking to see if this update is already out. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope this helped you. Let me know how much you hate my new avatar in the comments.